You ever get that weird feeling that something big is about to happen? Well, some of the wealthiest and most powerful people on the planet are acting on that feeling right now, and they're hoarding food like there's no tomorrow. We're not talking about your average prepper stocking up on canned beans in their garage. No, we're talking about billionaires, corporations, and entire governments quietly accumulating massive amounts of specific foods that you probably have in your kitchen right this second. Before we dive into what they're hoarding and why you should pay attention, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Trust me, the information coming your way is something you're going to want to stay updated on because this affects your wallet, your family, and your future. All right, let's get into it. Rice. Yeah, plain old rice. Yet the same stuff you might have sitting in your pantry right now is being stockpiled on an industrial scale. Countries like China have been building up rice reserves that could feed their entire population for over a year. That's not a typo. Over a year. China holds more than half of the world's total rice reserves, and they've been quietly increasing those numbers year after year. But it's not just China. Countries across Asia are buying up rice futures and physical rice supplies faster than ever before. Why? Because rice is a staple food for more than half the world's population, and when climate disasters strike or supply chains break down, rice becomes more valuable than gold. It's lightweight, stores for years when kept properly, and provides essential calories. And major investment firms have also started buying into rice production companies and farmland dedicated to rice cultivation. When the smart money starts hoarding something this basic, you know something's up. The average person doesn't realize that when nations start building strategic rice reserves, it means they're preparing for disruptions. Wars, climate change, economic collapse, pandemics, whatever the reason, they're making sure their people won't starve. And you should probably think about doing the same on whatever scale you can manage. Now let's talk about cooking oils. Vegetable oil, olive oil, canola oil. These aren't just for frying up your dinner. They're being hoarded like liquid gold right now. Over the past few years, cooking oil prices have skyrocketed, and it's not just inflation. Yet major buyers are locking in supplies and storing them in massive quantities. Palm oil, which is in literally everything from crackers to soap, has seen some of the most aggressive stockpiling. Countries like India and Indonesia, which are huge producers and consumers of cooking oils, have been dealing with export restrictions because they need to secure their own supplies first. When countries start limiting exports of basic goods, that's a red flag waving right in your face. Cooking oils are essential not just for eating, but for food production itself. Almost every packaged food you buy contains some form of oil. If the supply dries up or prices go through the roof, it cascades through the entire food system. Rich people know this. Corporations know this. That's why they're buying up oil reserves and securing long-term contracts with suppliers. Meanwhile, the average person is just noticing that the bottle of olive oil costs twice what it did 2 years ago and shrugging it off. But this isn't random. It's strategic, and you're watching wealth and resources consolidate in real time. Wheat is another big one. Bread, pasta, cereal. These staples of the Western diet all come from wheat, and wheat supplies are being hoarded aggressively right now. Russia and Ukraine are two of the world's biggest wheat exporters, and when their conflict started, the global wheat market went absolutely haywire. Prices spiked, countries panicked, and those with the resources started buying and storing as much wheat as they could get their hands on. But even before that conflict, major agricultural companies were already securing wheat supplies and locking in prices. Why? Because wheat is vulnerable. Droughts, floods, extreme heat, all of these impact wheat production more than most people realize. In recent years, wheat harvests in major producing regions have been hit hard by unpredictable weather patterns. Billionaires and investment funds have been buying up farmland specifically for wheat production because they know it's a safe bet. People need to eat, and wheat is one of the most calorie-dense and versatile crops on the planet. If you control the wheat, you control the food supply. It's that simple. Governments have also been increasing their strategic wheat reserves. These are emergency stockpiles meant to last through crises, when everyone from hedge funds to countries is hoarding wheat. Thus, maybe it's time to pay attention and stock your own pantry a little deeper. Let's move to something a little less obvious. Honey. Yes, honey. That sweet golden stuff that never goes bad is being quietly hoarded by people who understand what's coming. Honey is one of the few foods that literally lasts forever if stored properly. Archaeologists have found pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that are still perfectly edible thousands of years later. That alone makes it valuable as a long-term food storage option. But honey isn't just about longevity. It's medicinal. It has antibacterial properties, can be used to treat wounds, soothe sore throats, and provide quick energy. It's also becoming scarce. Bee populations have been in decline for years due to pesticides, habitat loss, and disease. Fewer bees mean less honey. And less honey means higher prices and lower availability. Smart investors and preppers have been buying up honey in bulk, sometimes entire harvests from local beekeepers. There are even reports of honey being used as a form of alternative currency in some regions during economic collapse. When a food item is simultaneously medicinal, eternal, and growing scarce, you can bet the people with resources are paying attention. If you've got some extra cash and storage space, putting away a few jars of raw honey isn't the worst idea in the world. It's an investment that doesn't spoil and could literally save your life someday. Canned fish, especially tuna and sardines, are flying off the shelves in ways that don't always make the news but definitely make the industry reports. These aren't glamorous foods. Well, nobody's bragging about their sardine stash at a cocktail party. But canned fish is protein-dense, shelf-stable for years, and packed with omega-3 fatty acids that your body needs. Over the last few years, there's been a massive uptick in purchases of canned fish by both governments and private buyers. Japan, a country that knows a thing or two about emergency preparedness, has some of the most extensive canned fish reserves in the world. But it's not just nations. Wealthy individuals and survivalist communities have been stockpiling canned fish because it checks all the boxes. High protein, long shelf life, doesn't need refrigeration, easy to transport. When supply chains break down or food becomes scarce, having protein sources that don't require power or cooking is huge. Fish populations are also under pressure from overfishing and changing ocean conditions, which means future supplies could be uncertain. Companies have already started to see this coming and are locking in fish supplies now while they can. The everyday shopper might just think canned tuna is a convenient lunch option, but the people moving millions of dollars around know it's a strategic asset. If the grid goes down, the economy crashes, or there's a major disaster, that can of sardines suddenly looks a lot more valuable than your digital stock portfolio. Coffee. Now we're getting into something that hits close to home for a lot of people. Imagine waking up tomorrow and there's no coffee. Sounds dramatic, right? But coffee supplies are under serious threat, and the people who know that are hoarding it like crazy. Coffee is grown in a very specific climate band around the equator, and that band is shrinking due to climate change. Brazil, the world's largest coffee producer, has been hit with devastating droughts and frosts that wiped out huge portions of their crops. Vietnam, another top producer, is dealing with similar issues. The result? Coffee prices are climbing and availability is getting tighter. But beyond the environmental issues, there's also political instability in many coffee-growing regions. When the supply of something billions of people consume daily starts to wobble, people with money start buying futures and physical coffee supplies in bulk. Some companies are stockpiling green coffee beans, which can be stored for years before roasting, ensuring they'll have supply when others don't. There are even reports of wealthy individuals buying entire coffee farms to secure their personal supply. Coffee might seem like a luxury, but for a huge chunk of the global population, it's a daily necessity. It's also a massive economic driver. When coffee becomes scarce, it doesn't just affect your morning routine. It affects entire economies. Countries that rely on coffee exports could collapse, which would trigger migration, political upheaval, and even conflict. The people hoarding coffee aren't just thinking about their caffeine fix. They're thinking about leverage, control, and survival in a world where even the small comforts become rare and valuable. Last but absolutely not least, we need to talk about salt. You might be thinking salt is everywhere. It's cheap. Why would anyone hoard it? But salt is way more important than most people realize, and yes, it's being stockpiled. Salt isn't just a seasoning, it's essential for human survival. Your body needs sodium to function, and without it, you die. Salt is also one of the oldest and most effective food preservatives in human history. Before refrigeration, salt was how people kept meat, fish, and vegetables from spoiling. If modern food systems break down, salt becomes absolutely critical for food preservation. Beyond food, salt is used in water purification, medicine, and even in some forms of battery technology. It's one of those substances that's so woven into daily life that we don't even think about it until it's gone. But certain types of salt, particularly high-quality sea salt and Himalayan salt, have been seeing huge increases in bulk purchases. There are entire warehouses dedicated to storing salt for long-term use. Some governments maintain strategic salt reserves just like they do with oil and grain. If there's a collapse in the supply chain or a major disaster, salt is one of those things that could become a barter item. It's cheap and plentiful now, but in a crisis it could be worth its weight in gold. The smart money knows this. They've been quietly putting away salt by the ton, not because they plan to eat it all, but because they understand its value in a world where the systems we rely on might not be there anymore. So what does all this mean for you? Should you be running out and buying a bunker full of rice and sardines? Not necessarily, but you should definitely be paying attention. When the wealthy and powerful start hoarding basic foods, they're seeing something the rest of us aren't being told. Maybe it's upcoming food shortages due to climate change. Maybe it's economic collapse. Maybe it's geopolitical conflict that's going to disrupt supply chains. Whatever it is, they're not taking chances, and neither should you. You don't have to go crazy, but having a few extra weeks or months of food on hand is just smart. Start with the basics: rice, beans, canned goods, cooking oil, salt. These are inexpensive and last a long time. Rotate them into your regular meals so nothing goes to waste. Think about water storage too, because food without water doesn't do you much good. The point isn't to live in fear, it's to be prepared and aware. The systems we rely on are more fragile than we like to admit, and the people with insider knowledge are acting accordingly. Don't wait until the grocery store shelves are empty to realize you should have listened. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next video where we break down even more of what's happening behind the scenes. Stay safe, stay informed, and take care of yourself and your family. Now, let's take a step back and really think about what this all means on a deeper level. We're living in a moment where information asymmetry has never been more pronounced. The wealthy have access to data, forecasts, and intelligence that the average person simply doesn't have. They employ teams of analysts, economists, and strategists who are constantly monitoring global trends, climate patterns, supply chain vulnerabilities, and geopolitical movements. When those teams sound the alarm and start recommending bulk purchases of specific commodities, the people with capital listen and act. This isn't conspiracy theory territory. This is how markets work. This is how the ultra-wealthy protect their interests and their families. They look at what's happening in the world right now and they prepare accordingly. The question you need to ask yourself is why you're not doing the same thing on your own scale. Your situation isn't the same as a billionaire's, obviously. You can't buy an entire coffee farm or secure government contracts for strategic reserves. But you can absolutely take steps to insulate yourself and your family from the kinds of disruptions that these people are preparing for. Think about it logically. What do you actually need to survive? Food, water, shelter, and basic supplies. If there's ever a period where those things become scarce or expensive or difficult to access, having a personal buffer is just common sense. It's not about living in a bunker or becoming a full-time prepper. It's about being responsible. It's about acknowledging that the world is unpredictable and taking reasonable precautions. Every single person should have at least a month's worth of non-perishable food stored somewhere in their home. That's not extreme. That's baseline. A month's worth of food isn't even that much space. It doesn't cost that much money. But if something happens, if there's a natural disaster, if supply chains get disrupted, if prices spike dramatically, you'll be grateful you did it. Beyond just food storage, start thinking about other vulnerabilities in your life. How dependent are you on electricity? What would you do if the power went out for a week? What about water? Do you have a way to purify water if the municipal system fails? What about medications you might need? Do you have enough to last through a disruption? These aren't paranoid questions. These are practical questions that responsible people ask themselves. The wealthiest people in the world have already answered these questions. They've made their plans. They've secured their supplies. They've diversified their assets. They've positioned themselves so that whether the economy thrives or crashes, whether supply chains hold or break, whether society stays stable or experiences significant turbulence, they'll be okay. You should be thinking about how to do the same thing within your own circumstances. This doesn't mean you need to abandon your normal life or become obsessed with doomsday scenarios. It just means being thoughtful about preparation and risk management. It means reading the signals that the world is sending and responding appropriately. It means not dismissing the actions of smart money as paranoia, but instead asking yourself what they know that you don't. Here's something else to consider. By the time these food shortages or supply chain disruptions become obvious to the general public, it'll be too late to prepare. The shelves will already be empty. The prices will already be astronomical. The time to prepare is now, while things are relatively normal, while supplies are still available, while you can make rational decisions instead of panic decisions. This is exactly why the wealthy are hoarding right now. They're not waiting for the crisis to hit. They're not waiting for prices to spike or supplies to run out. They're acting in advance because they understand how these systems work, and they know that preparation in advance is infinitely more effective than scrambling after the fact. You have that same opportunity right now. You can choose to be proactive or reactive. You can choose to prepare now or wait until there's a problem. But if you wait until there's a problem, the problem will already be solved by everyone who prepared in advance, and you'll be left scrambling with everyone else. The information we've gone through today about rice, oils, wheat, honey, canned fish, coffee, and salt isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to inform you. It's meant to help you see what's already happening in plain sight. Governments are stockpiling, corporations are hoarding, the wealthy are preparing. Yet, and the only question left is whether you're going to be someone who notices these patterns and acts on them, or someone who ignores them until it's too late. The choice is genuinely yours to make. Whatever you decide, make sure you're subscribed to this channel because we're going to keep breaking down the information that matters. We're going to keep analyzing what the people with power are doing and what it means for the rest of us. We're going to keep bringing you the kind of analysis that helps you stay ahead of these trends rather than behind them. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. And in the comments below, let me know what you think about all of this. Are you already stockpiling? Have you noticed these patterns in your own region? What concerns you most about future food security? The conversation you have in those comments helps me understand what matters most to you and helps shape the content we create. Thanks for being here. Thanks for caring about your future, and thanks for staying informed. Take care of yourself and the people you love.